Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Your Blank What Now podcast. My name's Marcy Nettles, and I am your host. And I am so excited to be coming back to you again this week with another amazing story, another phenomenal guest to be able to share the stories of breakdown to breakthrough. And you know what? Sometimes the breakthrough happens even when you're still breaking down. So I am so excited to introduce you today to Cindy Leach. She is a 48-year-old mother of four. She's an accomplished athlete holding 2 pro titles in the fitness industry. Her last show was November of 2017 on the national stage in Las Vegas. She has since hung up her competing and gym sessions altogether due to a life-changing event in 2019, where a life-saving emergency surgery took place on November 5th of that year. Cindy runs her own social media and consulting business and has been known as a local influencer in her area due to her endless efforts in the community to help others build relationships in various industries. She's earned recognitions such as Ambassador of the Year for 2 local chambers of commerce, been a fitness model for a local nutrition shop, honored with being a mural of a local drink shop as well. Wow, that's so cool. As well as have been a columnist for a former online fitness magazine and a writer for a church magazine. After her major breast surgery due to BII, that's breast implant illness, she has combated numerous issues and has gone on to have more health complications that has now left her with permanent autoimmune damage. In this last year, she knows what it means to live one day at a time. She has lost a relationship, her hair, and her finances. She has moved from home to the country, leaving 2 children behind as her health became too much for her to care for herself and her twin teenagers. The country provides a needed slower pace of living out of the city. Cindy suffers with anxiety, PTSD, insomnia, neuropathy, lichen planus, lichen planopilaris, and she can help me if I mispronounce those, alopecia, brain fog, memory issues, entire body muscle spasms and pain, and chronic fatigue. She currently functions with the help of 13 pills a day. And yet, with all of this, she still goes on with a smile and a passion for inspiring others. And Cindy, I just have to tell you, it's like you inspire me. You have brought me so much better perspective, on the problems that I've felt like I've had in my life. It's like I can look at you and that smile that you have and your zest for life, even though right now you're still in so much pain. I honor you. And the title of your episode today is going to be You're Living One Day at a Time. What now? So, Cindy, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Marcy.
You are very welcome. So, as I mentioned, your story has not completely come to a full breakthrough yet. And every single day you do live with pain. Would you mind sharing with What Now Tribe a little bit about who Cindy is and what life was like for you, including in your health and your fitness prior to 2019?
Well, my prior to that, for probably since 2013, as far as fitness goes, that's when I really started working out and just trying to get my body back, pre-kids. Just somewhat, not, I wasn't trying to be perfect or anything like that, but just overall health. I was like, okay, I'm getting to, closer to 40 at that time. It's like I really need to take my health serious. So yeah, so then, someone at the gym one day talked to me about competing. They thought I was a competitor. I'd never heard about that. So I got into it and things just kind of kicked off there. And in that was just me really learning my body. You really learn the ins and outs of your body. Um, but that was kind of life before, besides being go, 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 go. I've always been someone involved in different things in the community. Where I lived in Pearland, Texas, that's what I did. I just, my day would start 4 in the morning, go till 10, 11 at night, easy breezy. And I live by a calendar. My phone is color coded with things, color coded. That was life. that's all I knew. But that was kind of me ever since I was little. I never met a stranger. My background was dance. Um, yeah, I always, volunteer different things. Okay, I'll sign up. I'll sign up. Yeah, that people are my passion is probably the best way to put it. And then fitness became, aside from even the competing, because even after my last show in 2017, I honestly didn't have any plans to compete after that. But I still was in the gym 4 to 5 days a week.
Well,
I
and
mean,
being
that
in the
was
gym, yeah, being in the gym to compete. I mean, how many hours those 4 to 5 days a week were you there? It takes a
well,
lot for what you were doing.
when you're competing though, the last like month is you're in the gym twice a day, 7 days a week,
Yeah.
to get ready for a show by that last month. But even just on a normal basis, not competing, 4 to 5 days a week, I really only spent like an hour in the gym. I mean, it's you go in, you get your workout in, and you know, like they say, most of it is what you eat or what you
Exactly.
don't eat.
Right. The
You are
choices that
what
we
you
make.
eat can really apply.
Right. Well, one of the things my husband likes to say is that it's like you're not what you eat, it's what you digest and what nutrition you actually have that you're able to absorb in, right? And the things that we normally choose to eat is not good stuff and not good nutrition. Yeah. But we also have to
No,
remember, I mean, you're a mom of 4 kids. And so not only were you volunteering all over the place, I mean, you had 4 kids you were chasing around, going to the gym and being that person that was always there for everybody. You were
yeah,
constantly on the go. Did you ever have any issues back then?
no. I tell you, as far as my health goes, I never even really had a regular primary care physician until 2020.
Oh, wow.
Um, maybe 2019. I don't remember if I saw one then. No, if I ever got sick, it was literally when you just had to go to urgent care. I think one time in life I had pneumonia, the flu. That's it. The only time I was in the hospital or an emergency room was when I had gallstones, and then things like your tubes tied. But
Right.
I mean,
4 kids
no.
was enough.
I mean, those were the only times. I never had a regular primary care doctor because I honestly, I was just not a sick person. And that was my whole life, even growing up since I was a kid. I rarely missed any school growing up.
Wow. Okay. So you've always been very, very healthy. And then in 2019, it was almost like a bomb went off, right? Is you became ill. And can you share what really kind of set things off? How did you feel? What was going on? What were you experiencing? And what did you find out? What was the cause? And how did you come to understanding that?
Um, so I didn't think too much of it at first. The beginning of February of 2019, I got sick. I couldn't breathe. I had lots of coughing. So sure enough, I just go to urgent care, right?
Right.
And because I don't have a primary care doctor, and I had bronchitis. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it still is kind of winter sometimes then. So I didn't think too much of that. When it started becoming more questionable was I really never got over it. I ended up with it kind of twice in a row. And I ended up with pleurisy that I had for about a month or two. And that's an inflammation of the lung. So, and that is very, very painful. I mean, every breath you take, you feel it, right? Because your lung has to move. And that was just basically from all the coughing.
Yeah.
And even between those two bouts of a couple months, it was emergency room visit because I couldn't breathe. So breathing treatments. And then they were like, look, you need to go see an asthma doctor and maybe see if you have asthma. And I'm like, what? I've never in my life had asthma.
Out of
And
the
I've
blue.
never been sick this much with my lungs. I was like, seriously? I just couldn't get well.
Yeah. And how old were you at this
So
time? How old were you now?
That was 2019. So I'm 48. So I was 45,
6,
almost
45?
46.
Okay.
Yeah, that May I turned 46, I guess.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that
Never had any breathing issues before, ever. And then all
I
of a
was a
sudden at
dancer.
46.
I lived in the gym.
Mhm.
I mean, nothing. So, yeah, so I kept having those. Then I went and saw an allergist, and I was diagnosed. This was come about April of that year, I guess, April, May. Um, I went into his office, and he did, they do that lung breathe thing to see what your lung capacity is. Mine was only 40%. I
Wow.
only had 40% of my lungs, between both of them. So I was told I had adult onset asthma, right? And you're like, what? It's like, yeah, it can happen when you're an adult. And I'm like, how does this all of a sudden happen? I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. So, he puts me on inhalers, and, you've got your maintenance one and your rescue one for as needed. Well, my rescue one was used quite a bit. So I go about, I'm still in the gym, but my recovery is taking longer. I'm noticing that my workouts aren't as sufficient, because if I got my heart rate up, I couldn't breathe. So, we went with seeing him. I had to go back every couple of weeks, and I wasn't improving. He said I was using the inhaler way too much, because they check and see how long you've had it, how many pumps a day are you using it. And he was like, look, you can't live this way. He goes, too much of this is bad for you. And, I told him, I said, I can't breathe though. What am I supposed to do? So then they added, like another little pill to try and help with allergies that maybe were helping their cause it. And so then from there, I was directed to go see a pulmonologist. Okay. I mean, like I said, at this time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've already seen more doctors in a few months than I've seen in years. And so I go do the pulmonologist is lung doctors, and they do those lung function tests where they put you in those little Superman booths, and they do all kinds of tests to see how your lungs are functioning. It's crazy. Well, that test was an epic fail, because during the test, I started noticing I'm claustrophobic. So they left it open for me a little bit. That was fine. Well, we get into like the second test or so, and I start noticing my left arm is going numb and is tingly. So I tell them, and they're like, "Well, that can happen a little. They're having you exhaust every bit of air out of your lungs. I mean, it's hard on you. It tires you out."
Yes.
So that was just kind of hard, anyways. So they stopped a few minutes, and then we started going again. And it happened again, only this time it was getting worse. And I told them, I said, look, I don't feel good right now. I said, something's not right. So they pull me out of the booth, and they start doing some vitals on me. And I am starting to go into distress. So they're thinking I'm having a heart attack. So they actually had to call an ambulance. Now, mind you, I drove myself to the doctor. So, but they had to call an ambulance and have me transferred to the nearby local hospital in Clear Lake, where, of course, they go run all kinds of tests, EKG. So I'm not having a heart attack. Okay, what is it? They don't know. So I get released from there. We go on, and obviously I don't even try to go back to do that function test, so as life's going on, things are still just challenging with breathing. I'm starting to recognize more symptoms happen as this is going along. And this is probably in, I think, May or June at this time. Maybe by July is when I saw the lung function doctor. But I'm also starting to notice weird spasms. My feet would spasm up, cramp up real bad. I had weird facial twitches. I was starting to get light sensitivity, skin sensitivity, just weird things that I didn't have before, along with still having to live on the inhalers. Um, so come about September, nothing's changed. We haven't figured anything out as far as my lungs, except me just getting told you're using it too much. They're like, okay, well, use it 30 minutes before you go to the gym. See if that helps. I mean, we're trying all kinds of different things. The rescue inhaler, I was now having to use, or the maintenance one, use it in the morning and at night. We're thinking maybe it's something in the air ducts. Maybe there's something going on. We did an allergy test, come to find out I was real allergic to cats. Well, I had two. So, I mean, it was just crazy. I ended up having to, in all this, I ended up having to rehome my cats and get rid of my cats because we're thinking it's allergies.
Right.
So, and then come about September, I got a recall letter from the manufacturer of my implants. And honestly, I kind of laughed at it. I'm thinking, oh, look, like your car, you get a recall letter for your car. And most people do not take those serious, right? Well, I'll tell you now, I take all recalls serious.
Right. Well,
Even if it's your car.
Yeah. So before we move forward in this, then let's talk just a little bit about your implants. How long had you had them?
I had those 3.5 years at that time.
And why did you decide to get them in the first place?
Well, implants, I had gotten saline originally years ago. And they tell you you're supposed to change them out about every 10 years. And a doctor that was kind of like a friend of mine that I had met from the community. So, there were a big community of us. They knew him. He was from that area. Well, he kind of talked me into getting the particular silicone ones that I got.
Right.
Because of the fitness I did. He said, hey, this implant, would be good for, because we would fluctuate in weight, when we bulk, and I was all natural. So it's not like I could bulk up too much, but still, you're going to put fat on and body fat on when you're not getting ready for a show. And then when we get ready for a show, we're leaning out so little. So, the saline ones, they'll show all the ripples when you lose weight and stuff. So these were supposed to be, good for what I did with fitness. And, of course, he went into showing me how they would be good, right? Just the gummy bears, how, and I've learned this from other women. The doctors show you one cut in half, squeeze it, look. And I was specifically told, I mean, I won't forget that day. I mean, because they're showing you the description, and I was specifically told, if this implant, even if this implant was to rupture, it won't leak.
Won't go anywhere because it's the gummy.
Before. Right. Because, we'd always kept hearing silicone implants were bad, the silicone, for years. But apparently now, right, they're safer, I was told. So I did it, right? We always trust what our doctors tell us, right? Because and in our minds, they paid all that money to go to medical school, and that's with any doctor.
Yeah. And that's what we've been trained for as well. I mean, there's someone that's an authority. We respect authority. We listen to them because they know more than us.
Right.
That's where we place our trust.
I tell you, since then, though, I start questioning a lot of doctors. People don't understand that you can fire your doctors. They don't think about that.
Yes.
You can fire any doctor you want. And I have fired doctors on my kids before, but we're trained, like you said, we're trained that this is a doctor. They know what they're doing.
They have the white coat and the stethoscope. Right. Yeah. So originally when you got them, did you get them because of your weight, your fitness work? And because, I mean,
no, I got them years before. Ago. So those were about, 10 years old. No, I got them because after, 4 kids and especially my last two are twins,
Yeah.
boy girl twins. So I had an aesthetic issue to where my left breast kind of stayed stretched out
Mhm.
and the other one wasn't. So I almost had like a D and a B. I couldn't wear anything without padding.
Right. Right.
Um, so for me, it was just, I didn't like it.
Well, it was a confidence
Um,
thing too. I mean, I totally understand. I got my implants after my kids too, and it was because I had rocks in socks, right? Being moms, we take care of our kids, and sometimes our skin does not, doesn't have that bounce back feature all of the time,
yeah.
right? So I totally understand why you got them. And and we're not necessarily talking all about implants right now, but I got to tell you, silicone, saline, it doesn't matter. They're all bad for you. They are all bad for you.
And, didn't yeah, and obviously I've learned that now over the last couple of years, seeing other
Right.
women struggle with not just the silicone ones in general.
Yeah,
I learned a
absolutely.
whole new term.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so now let's go back to that recall letter that you got on your implants. And like you said, it seems kind of funny. It's like, okay, a recall letter. So, what are you going to do? I have to go and have surgery to have these things taken care of. It's like we're kind of
Well,
hesitant.
no,
And
girl, that didn't even come across my mind. I was just like, oh, they're on recall. Okay. And so then I start seeing, and honestly, I didn't even put a call in right away. It was a week or two later. I started seeing all those ad things that pop up on Facebook. Um, you know, breast implant illness, you may be entitled to compensation. And I'm like, what? And they showed the implant, and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, so I call one of them and I tell them, hey, I got a recall letter. What is this? And they were like, well, first thing, go get it, an ultrasound and all that done on your breasts. I was like, okay. Now, mind you, the reason I couldn't take it serious or just didn't understand everything. Nothing was wrong with my breasts. They didn't look funny. They weren't in pain. I mean, nothing, nothing at all. And so that's why it was kind of hard at first to fall for whatever that was. I didn't understand all of it.
right. Well, you were
And
also suffering from all of the lung stuff and with your
yeah,
breathing.
that was me
That was
dealing.
priority, right?
Yeah, and of course, in my mind, I didn't put
Two
the two
together.
together, not at all.
Right.
I had never heard of this breast implant illness stuff
Right.
ever.
Right.
Um, so I did. I went and got an ultrasound, and they ultrasound, mammogram, all of that. And the breast doctor comes in during the ultrasound, and she tells me, she said, well, she goes, your right implant is ruptured and it's leaking. And I just remember in that moment, I kind of teared up and I was like, oh my gosh. I told her, I said, could this be the problem to my health issues? And, of course, she didn't know what my issues were, but she said, well, silicone in the body is not good. Okay. Um, so at this time, I've gotten sicker. I'm not eating much. My whole body is just starting to hurt. Um, all of it, to walk, the joints, the everything. So I go see first the doctor that put the implants in. Obviously that's who you should go back to first. I um, took him the film, the report, and I remember, and this is where you can fire your doctors and I remember hearing him. He tells me before he even looks at my film, and I have a witness. So I mean, there was the girl that's always in their room too, but then I had my boyfriend at that time. He was there as well, and he just kind of told me. He said, "Well, that there's really not an official diagnosis of breast implant illness. I can't guarantee your symptoms will go away, even if we remove them." He was just kind of dismissive. And, at that point, it's one of the doctors. I mean, you're sitting here thinking, is all this crap in my head? I mean, you don't, I'd never heard of this. And from the time I found the rupture to seeing him was only like a week or less. So I'm still in shock. I'm still like, what's going on here? So he looks at my film, he comes back, and he tells me, I am not convinced it's leaking. I want you to get an MRI first of the breast. I was like, okay. Well, I had already had a second consult set up with another doctor that someone had referred me to that had been through this stuff the following Monday. And I'm glad I did, especially with something that serious. So I left his office kind of, obviously, I didn't feel any better. I didn't feel any reassurance, especially when he even told me, he's like, look, I don't know if I can even save your nipples. He said, this will give me some time to see how I'm going to do that. Okay. Honestly, I didn't care about the nipples. I at this point, I'm just not sure what I'm what I'm supposed to be. So I left his office. I couldn't even get a mammogram, even with driving an hour an MRI until the following Monday night. So we go on. This week's coming. I mean, I've already lost probably 10 pounds in a matter of a month.
Wow.
Because I'm not eating. I don't even want to eat. I have no desire to eat. Every breath I took, my entire body hurt. So I go to my second consult, and it was that Monday morning when I was supposed to get that MRI that Monday night. And he looks at my film, but then he's also looking at me, and I have my boyfriend in here at this time and my mother. My mother was in town, so I wanted her to go as well to hear what all's going on. That way there's more, it's always better when something that serious to have more ears in the room.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. And especially because, I didn't want my parents sitting here thinking, because now I'm finding out, yes, okay, I'm going to have surgery, a surgery that they say insurance doesn't really pay for. So my parents are obviously going to have to help. So I definitely wanted my mom, that way I'm not sitting here making all this up in my head.
Right. Or in your condition, having to try to explain it.
Yeah.
Because when you're in that room and you're under that pressure, it's very easy to forget 90% of what's said in the first place. Right. And
Yes.
so if you can't audio record it, then having people there with you is definitely the next best thing. Have someone there to help you with the details. Smart.
Yeah. So he came back, and just looking at me, and he told me they put me in surgery, basically emergency surgery, the very next morning. So I was his first patient the very next morning. And, still going through that, I really didn't know what to think, because I really still feel like everything was such a blur, because from finding it to emergency surgery is now all within like 2 weeks. So I'm just still like, what's going on? What? I'd never heard of explant surgery, taking implants. I just never.
Right.
So, I was also having like high blood pressure issues, all kinds. Well, so I come out of surgery, I'm waking up, and I can say my blood pressure was normal already. I did have a lot of symptoms that were already better. Mainly one, I could breathe.
Thank you, Jesus.
I could breathe. It was amazing. So, you're basic. He tells you, he doesn't tell you anything then, because, you're in and out of sedation, and it's like, okay, you have to come back in a week for your follow-up. And so that was it. So, you go home, you've got drains in you, you're telling all this that has to go on. And so then that was a whole new reality. After that, the first time, the surgery, first of all, and you're on some meds a few days, your boyfriend's helping do your drains, but it's not until you take the wraps off for the first time that you see a little more reality of what just happened.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a major, major surgery. I had it done just over a year ago, and it is a major surgery. Yeah.
yeah. And, you don't think about, in my mind, I guess I'm thinking, oh, okay, they just cut me where they had put the implants in to remove them. No. You look in the mirror and you see that you kind of look like Frankenstein. You were cut up like a double mastectomy. And of course, you also realize that a lot more was taken than just the implants. So that was hard. That was very emotional. Um, and and I think it was a whole bunch of different feelings. You're looking at that cut up, and then of course you have to go through all the stuff of, oh gosh, is my boyfriend still going to like me? Is it, because I don't even like me looking in the mirror.
Right.
It's, you're used to one thing, and then now all this. So I go for my first uh, sometimes my brain freezes.
It's okay. Your follow up
Yeah,
or
my first follow-up. um and he comes in and he tells me, he hands me a stack of photos, and he says, I want to tell you something. He goes, I've never taken this many photos of a surgery. He said, he had his whole staff in there. And so we start going through the photos, and he tells me, he says, you are the worst I have ever seen of a rupture. And he then did later also go on a new segment with me, going through that. So the silicone, my asthma problems, the silicone was a smothering me, my entire chest cavity. It also had to be cleaned out of ribs. And the photos were just horrific. This implant that was not supposed to even leak if it got ruptured was being pulled out of me it was just melted goo everywhere. It was just horrific. It was all in my surgeon's hands. Um, so the surgery took a little longer than it was supposed to, obviously, because they had a lot to clean out.
right.
And um, and so then, the aftermath, they take the drains out, and so then you're to go home now, and come back in a few weeks. Doctor, where all the incisions, the stitches, will just dissolve, da 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 da. So you do all that, and my mentality was very, very, no. I just, every time I looked in the mirror, and you couldn't not look in the mirror, right?
Right. No, you can't. They're right there. They're right there. Yeah.
Yeah, even though you don't want to look because of how it looked, the other part, you're looking and you're like, this is a dream, right? Is this me? What just happened? What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah. You go back to the mirror hoping it will look different.
Yeah.
You go to look. Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally, yeah. So what
Yes.
happened from this point? What happened from this point? Because obviously you were beaten down. I mean, this happened so quickly in identifying what the issue was and having the surgery and then hearing how bad it really was. I mean, are you kidding? Adult onset asthma? No, you were being suffocated.
Yeah.
And now, what was healing for you forward? What happened next?
Well, next, I was in a pretty bad slump for about a month. And when I went for my month follow up, he, pretty much he released me, and he told me, he said, Cindy, you need to get back in the gym, because he could see that I was not, he was like, look, he goes, that's kind of an order, because he knew that that was my place to be. And so he was kind of telling me I need to, because he could see me probably going down, a different slope if I did not try to get back to my normal routine.
Right.
And so I did. And I will tell you that helped. I got back to the gym, not not living on inhalers. I did for a few months have to use a rescue inhaler every now and then. But remember, I mean, this stuff was everywhere. But that didn't last very long. I don't use inhalers at all now. Um, Healing forward, the gym helped. I got back into that routine. Mentally, though, things I went through the periods of getting rid of a stack of clothes that would never look the same on me. So that was a whole different mentality. But then I bought a couple of things that did look okay on me. So those started helping visually. It's like, okay, this fits right. You go through that. I then kind of, some new stuff started happening a few months after surgery. At the whole time, I'm still trying to, started seeing a counselor. I decided I needed to see one because I still mentally, that was still a lot. That was a major surgery. I was left with less breast than I had even before. I'm now, have less than I had in junior high and high school, pretty much. So that's a whole different thing you're having to get adjusted to, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And I think for me, it bothered me because I would see women in some of those groups and I had to just get out of them, that even after explant, they've still got like these big double D's and stuff. And I'm like, that's not fair. You'd never needed them to begin with. And okay, I know they got them for their reasons. This is me going through the healing of like,
Yeah.
I couldn't see that. I had to
You
get
had
out of
anger. You had some anger, and that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. Like, it was just, the whole thing of, it's not fair. You didn't even need them. You still look. So I don't feel that way anymore, obviously. But I started having some new health issues as far as I started getting lumps on my thyroid a couple of times. Excuse me. So, I go to the doctor, get blood work done, stuff like that. I'm told you're in premenopause. And I'm like, okay, well, I was fine last October before my surgery. So it's like, okay. So dealing with that and what came with that, just a few months after learning about it, I started having the premenopause emotions, the hormones. It was a few months of just very darkness. I'm still trying to recover from now a breast surgery to now I'm being told my ovaries are shutting down. I'm not having kids anyways, but your mentality, it's like, they're okay. My womanhood, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my breasts are pretty much, lost a lot of that. Now my ovaries are shutting down, but I'm also going through this very dark period of immense anger, which someday I need to do a talk on too for women, because going through that, and even had heard from men that it's difficult for relationships. I was angered. I would hit myself. I just didn't know where all this anger was coming from. I was mad at the world. Um, and it was basically because my hormones were out of whack. So it was a very dark period. And once we discovered that, and I got on some medicine for premenopause, and we, in the process of getting that under control, it was horrible. It was horrible because my whole body is just in a whole bunch of different states. And so during that time, we moved. That's come about November of 2020. My boyfriend of 4 years walked out. Literally, on one morning on his way out the door to work. He just kind of couldn't handle all of it anymore. And I was in probably the lowest place in my life I've ever been. And instead of working through it with me, oh yeah, I mean, I griped at him a lot. I mean, but a lot of it too was, since my breast surgery, I didn't feel he desired me the same. So I felt ugly.
Right.
I mean, and this is like a year after my surgery, and I still hadn't, because COVID happened. So I only got to do like 2 counseling sessions. So I still hadn't even recovered from that. And now I'm in a whole nother piece, and not feeling like my boyfriend even, cares to touch me. I feel like I'm having to scream at him for attention, is what I felt like, is just everything I was doing was outlash for attention.
Yeah. And such a vicious cycle, such a vicious cycle. I mean, starting with your breast surgery and now this looking at yourself completely different. I mean, you're looking at yourself as a different person, a different identity sexually and being desirable. And then to start having the issues and having, being told that you have to have your ovaries, another part, like you said, of your womanhood being removed from you and
Well, not removed, they were just shutting down.
shutting down. Okay.
Which, yeah, I mean, which, like I said,
It's just
right,
a
that's not a big deal when you're not, but it's that's a piece of our womanhood.
yes, absolutely. And then to feel like you're not being, cared for or not getting the attention that you need. And on his side, it's like, I can't even imagine what he's going through too, because he's, seen you go through so much. It's like,
Mhm. And I'm sure, yeah, me yelling at him doesn't help. um, but I mean, it was, all of it was just a lot to go through.
such a
And
hard time.
so when he left, was able to find a counselor. At that time, I was seeing her 3 days a week. Now I see her about twice a month. I'm still in counseling. I will always stay in counseling because it's helped me tremendously. But that was a very hard time in life, because for a few months, all I could think was, he left because of me. And then it would go in my mind, I felt like he threw me away. And sometimes I'm not even sure if I've recovered from that,
Yeah.
thinking that another guy would even want to take this on. Just the 2 years, or I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of still been,
Difficult.
a little bit of the trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you have to explain to someone, and then of course now the new stuff. So
Everything. Well, you know what though? You are so strong and you have been so resilient. I mean, even though you probably are thinking right now, it's like, oh, I'm not really feeling it right now, like at all. But you are. I mean, even in the midst of everything that you have just shared with us, you started a new business. I mean, in 2020, when the world is shutting down, here you are, Cindy, starting a new business. Can you tell us about your business and what brought it on and why you decided to do this? And how did you do it with the pain and with everything you were going through?
so I started doing, I loved doing marketing. I was doing marketing stuff for a local dealership, community marketing. Well, I love being creative. And so I wanted to get into the side of creating ads and things and stuff like that. So that's what I started doing on my own. At the time, I wasn't as sick as I was now yet. So I was able to be out, going to my clients. So I create their content and handle their Facebook pages. If they have events, I go to them to help, take photos of it so that I can post it on their behalf. Because, usually the clients, they're talking and stuff. So I do the photos. I would take the photos, and just be out there trying to get more awareness to their business. And that's just what I love to do. I can use my creative side and my interpersonal skills as well. So that's, and I am still doing it to some degree. Obviously, I haven't been out in the public that much in a while due to my new health stuff, but I love it. I love getting to that kind of stuff, from now more so from behind the scenes. And so I'm blessed with that. And honestly, I went out on faith. I truly went out on faith, and it just let God take the reins.
Ah, and I was going to ask you about that now, as a matter of fact. So great lead in there. I mean, gosh, I mean, you must have felt really, really alone in a lot of this time period. And maybe even still, sometimes you feel that way. that what was your faith like, and what is your relationship with God? What does God mean to you?
Well, before he walked out, um, you know, I'd had my faith since I was little, but I wasn't really like living it. And, when all that happened, I literally, that November, I recommitted my life to God that November of 2020. I was on my hands. I was, down on my knees. I was like, I was crying. I didn't know. It was almost like that waving the white flag, like, all right, God, I surrender. You have to take it all. When he walked out, I wasn't making a whole lot of money yet, so there were a bunch of things that went into that alone. But you know what? Like you said, the resilience can't come from me. It has to come from God. Either that or my stubbornness that I don't know how. I'm just not someone who's ever been able to give up no matter what. Excuse me. Whew. So my faith became everything. At those times with a lot of the anxiety I was having from everything that had happened in him, I was praying quite a few times a day. I'd go in my bathroom, sit on my rug, and just go to Jesus. And honestly, a lot of times I didn't know what to say. It'd been so long since I'd really prayed and read the word. And, for a few weeks, the first verse that my Bible opened to, the first day I opened it was Jeremiah 29:11. And that is my verse. And it stayed on that page for a few weeks. That was the only verse that I went to. Only verse. I'd pray and I'd reread that verse.
Do you know what that verse says?
For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And I still have to live by that.
Yes.
Because I really have no choice, because every day I sit here and it's like, I have to remember that. All right, God, I'm still in this today. So, and I know you don't mean to harm me, even though I'm pretty much, unless God changes it, I'm this is now my life for the rest of my life. So I just had to seek God to help me see and remember he uses everything for good somehow. And I already can see where he's used my journey to help other women.
Yes.
So that's all I know. I mean, it's not that magical. But, it being something so new and seeing now how many women and actresses and all that, I guess he wanted me to, that's all I know.
Well, what I know is that your faith and your bravery and your leaning into God for the strength that you need to be able to share your story like you are right now. Your story is very similar to the stories of women's that I heard that first introduced me to breast implant illness, because I was lost. I had no idea, right? And if those brave women had not felt strong enough or willing to share vulnerably about what their journey had been like, just like you're doing, they changed my life. They saved my life. And I know that every single time that you share, that it's going to touch someone or someone that they know that they'll be able to share it with. And guys, if you're listening to this episode, that's what this episode is all about, right? Cindy's not out of it, but she wants other people to be empowered with the decisions that they're able to make moving forward because she shared her story. So, I am so grateful to you, Cindy. And I am so thankful to a loving Father in heaven that we know will never leave you or forsake you. He will always be right there with you. He is your strength. Share his yoke, because gosh, there's no one that can lift and carry more than he can, right?
Oh, absolutely.
He definitely makes it so much lighter. But thank you for sharing that aspect of your relationship with God and the importance and how you don't really need to know what to say. It's the most simple prayer is just saying, calling
I
on the
need
name of
you.
Jesus. Yeah. Yeah.
Some
Amen.
days I've had to literally just say that. It's like, I just need you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So share with us, you've had some new developments. You've kind of alluded to those, and I mentioned some of them in your bio. Like in March of 2021, things started to shift. What has the battle been like since then?
So what I find really cool before that is, I see where God now removed, obviously he removed someone from my life that probably would not have been able to handle what was coming. But I also see where God needed me right with him first and foremost for what he knew was coming.
Amen.
Because since then it's only been he and I. It's only been me at my doctor appointments. It's only been he and I. So in March of 2021, I had spent over 2 years growing my hair out, and I'd mostly wear it up in like a little, the little top knot things or ponytails. Well, one morning, us women, when we do that, we're always looking around all sides in the mirror, like, okay, any holes in our, well, there was a hole in mine. And of course, I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, it's just a hole and I need to rebrush it or whatever.
Right.
And when I got to looking, I was like, oh my gosh, that's like a whole hole. It's like, there's no hair there. So I took my hair down and I started looking through it, and I had a lot. Uh, and they weren't like round patches just missing. It was like bouts of hair missing all throughout it at randomness. And I had noticed my head had been hurting. I just thought it was because I wore it up a lot. And itching. I didn't think much of that too much because I always pulled it up in a ponytail, and I know that can be kind of tight. So I posted a picture on Facebook, and a friend of mine that worked for a dermatologist, she told me, she's like, Cindy, I think you have alopecia. And I'm like, okay. Well, so made an appointment at her doctor's office and went in. And at this time, my head, because I couldn't get into her, I think, for like a week or so. Well, my head it was really hurting and itching. And I was constantly like scratching it and like, well, so when I went in, she goes through, she looks at my head and she's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure you have this, a form of alopecia. But when I was telling her about the itching and the pain, she went through like all forms of different types of like alopecia, the scalp diseases. And so she said, let's do a biopsy. So they did a punch biopsy. We got the results back in a few days. And when I was talking to her about the alopecia part, I asked her, I said, well, should I shave my head? I mean, what, shouldn't I? What do women do? And she said, well, that's a personal preference. So I asked around, and a couple of other women that had it, I was put in touch with by friends. And, they said the best thing ever was they just shaved their head. So I had set up an appointment a time and day on a Saturday. I had my best friend shave my head because she used to be a hairdresser. And I didn't want that to be public. I've been very transparent with my journey ever since ever since 2019, and it still hasn't stopped. Right? You get the good, bad, ugly days. I blubber cry on Facebook. I don't care. People need to see everything someone goes through so they can see how to get through it.
Yes.
So I had her do that, and so then I had to go back for my results. And when I walked in, she was like, I will tell you, so after my best friend shaved it, I didn't even cry. I won't say I didn't cry a lot after, but I didn't even cry. I come out of the bathroom. She's worried. She's like, you okay? And I walk out and I'm like, I'm fine. I'm okay. I don't know if it was shock or what, but the relief was amazing. Yes. My head had so much relief that I told her, I said, I don't care what my head looks like. I was like, this feels great. So when I walked into the doctor, she's like, oh, I see you shaved your head. And so I was like, yes. I said, it feels so much better. She's like, okay, well, let's go over your results. So come to find out, I had not only a form of alopecia, but I had the worst of the scalp diseases to get. Go me, yay!
Hey, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it all the way.
Lichen planopilaris or lichen planopilaris. I think I always say it Leach, and I'm probably saying it wrong.
I don't know.
I guess I should look up the actual, like, look for all the long eyes or all that. So yes, so that's been the journey now. So basically what that is a derivative of lichen or lichen planus. Lichen planus it's an autoimmune disease that affects your largest organ, which is our skin.
Yes.
So I have gotten like lesion, I've had a lesion under my eye. My fingernails, right now, they're not highly inflamed. A couple are, but around the nail beds, it gets super red, painful. Also, my nails have like striations in them. They're not pretty. Basically, you can get sores anywhere on your body and in any crevice. Your mouth, any moisture, your nose, anywhere.
Right.
Luckily, I've just been, had the one on my face. I get them on my eyelids, and I've had my fingers. So the extent of that for the scalp disease is the planopilaris. So mine just went a step further to where it also is my scalp, which is where it stays inflamed, the pain, the itching. So that's kind of where we've been with that, among just all the different issues. I've seen numerous specialists. I had my muscle pain at that time started real bad too. I could hardly walk. Chronic fatigue. I was bedridden nearly a month. And I've seen one specialist after another trying to see what's wrong with my muscles. They felt like they were in a constant state of like lactic acid buildup. The pain wasn't really the joints, it was just the muscles, but the chronic fatigue, just everything is just been a constant fight to fight a lot of the pain. It was a constant pain, and no doctors can find anything wrong. I've seen rheumatology, neurology, neuromuscular. So the dermatologist, I'm on anxiety meds, sleeping meds. I honestly have in total about 18 to 20 medications. Some of those are as needed. Some of the ones I take a day are 3 times a day.
Wow.
So in total, it's 13 pills a day for me to function right now. Wow. 5 of those meds are from a pain specialist. So I finally gave up on going from specialist to specialist because they can't find anything wrong. Oh, and in the aftermath, I won't go back too much into the story, but there is silicone left in numerous lymph nodes in my right armpit. So basically, we're boiling it down to silicone poisoning, neuropathy, things like that. So the pain specialist is helping with that with, a couple of nerve muscles, muscle relaxers. And then I've got anxiety meds, premenopause meds, sleeping meds. And for my scalp, I am now on an immunosuppressant therapy. The doxycycline that's normally recommended for it, we've gotten to the highest dose I could take for the max time, and it wasn't doing anything. So since it is an actual autoimmune disease, she was able to put me on immunosuppressant therapy. So I'm on Cellcept, which is one of, it's a pretty strong one. So, I can't really be out in the sun anymore. My life used to be my Jeep that I had to trade in, and the beach.
Right. So life has completely shifted for you.
It's taken a 180. I can't go much. I can't get overstimulated in public places, the anxiety, PTSD. If too much happens around me, I will have an anxiety attack. I don't like loud things. I move slow. I'm not in a hurry. I basically have to have, puppy dogs and rainbows. I can't even yell. If my heart rate gets up too much, I will have an anxiety attack. So yeah, life changed 180 to where I'm pretty much more of an introvert instead of an extrovert.
Which is why you moved from city to country, right? Get away from all the crazy.
That, and I had a lot of loss of income. due to getting sick, I wasn't picking up any clients. Some of my clients, just due to the economy, couldn't use me anymore. So I've actually, over the last 6 to 8 months, I had started a GoFund. I've had someone help that was helping me pay my rent and pays my insurance. He was a total godsend. I had only met this gentleman like once, but he loves to pay it forward to people. And he asked for a meeting one day with me, and he just told me, he said, "You've always helped everybody else." He said, "It's your turn." And that was hard. Um, I'm always the one that was helping people. And for me to have to ask for help has been very hard. But not making money, I had to give up my rent house. So I kind of had to move home also. I just couldn't take care of myself. I can't take care of myself and my kids how I needed to.
Yeah.
And of course, luckily they're older, they're 16, but it's been hard. I had to leave them behind.
Yes.
And my parents have an RV here for me. So I'm living in an RV right behind their house. And but yeah, I knew that I needed a slower pace of living, and somewhere that's just not so much upkeep. And I'm here where they can help me with things. It's kind of sad when your parents that are older are more physically capable than you are.
But you know what, though? I mean, let's think about this a couple different ways. Yes, if you want to think about it that way, it could be sad, but be grateful that you have healthy parents, that they are around and there, that they can help you, right? So it's a blessing. And then for the gentleman that is helping you, paying it forward, you have blessed so many people. And by being willing to give of your time and your energy and your abilities to other people, you now being in a position to where other people can do the same for you, you're opening up the opportunity for God to be able to use them, right, in his hands as a tool, but they will also be blessed because they're doing it. And so by saying yes to someone helping you, you're actually saying yes to them receiving blessings too.
And
So,
my
so
counselor had to remind me of that too. I guess I've just never, I didn't look at it that way, but I can relate to that because I know what a blessing it is to me when I can pay it forward. So it's just, it's still sometimes hard to think about having to be taken care of that much.
well, and you've been so independent your whole life. So, to have to be dependent on someone else that is technically a stranger, right? Too. So, but
Yeah.
but what a beautiful, beautiful thing that he's doing for you, and also for your parents. Um, I'm really blown away with you. I mean, because when we first spoke, you talked about living one day at a time.
Mhm.
And your mindset, even though you're emotional because your life is difficult. And that's part of the message of this episode is that even if your life is really difficult, and if you think your life is difficult right now, maybe take a look at your life and look at Cindy's life, and maybe your life isn't quite as bad as you thought it was. Speaking to the What Now tribe, obviously. Um, but being able to have that positive mindset, what has that meant to you? Being able to get up each day and make the decision on what type of a mindset you're going to have. How powerful has that been for you?
Uh, Actually, it's helped in many ways, even as far as my anxiety, um, because I truly live just in today. Like I'm not even thinking about tomorrow. And I know a lot of people say that, but it's like I honestly am that way. I have to keep reminding my mom of that because she'll want to talk about something a few days ahead, and I'm like, Mom, I mentally don't have the capacity, and I really don't. I feel like I live on in slow motion. With the way my brain is. And so one day at a time has been my biggest blessing to see. I see a lot more now a lot of things around me that I don't take for granted now, living in just today. It's like I can only do what I can only do. Someone told me that one day. I have my routine of my meds, and you got to take them 3 times a day. I don't hardly eat. I don't have an appetite, even though I've gained weight. You'd think I ate a lot. Um, so I really, really was forced with all this to live in today because my everyday is different. But by doing that, I can get up and I don't have to worry about tomorrow. So I get up and it's like, all right, what do we got today, God? And sometimes I laugh because sometimes I'm like, all right, bring it on, God. And he does. And I'm like, really? And he's like, well, you said it. But I have so much more appreciation for my life, because even though it's difficult, I feel like I've been given a second chance. I feel like I've truly been given a second chance by God to do things different. And I was forced to.
Yeah.
But life is beautiful. Literally every day I wake up and I can breathe, I feel blessed. I literally stop and smell the roses per se. They cause me to, sneeze sometimes, but I look around me more. I've started trying to make reconnections with siblings. My parents, I started texting my mom, talking to my mom a lot more. And of course, now I live out here, but God's aligned things. And I've had peace about all of it, even though it was hard leaving the twins. We can talk. Jackson's getting his driver's license soon, so he'll drive up. So I don't know. I'm not going to say it's easy because some days the pain is harder or the fatigue is harder. And I just, a few days ago, I was in bed all day. I slept till about 5:30. That was okay.
Yes.
I'm still grateful. And I think I learned to just not take life for granted in all this. And that's what motivates me each day. It's like each day I've been given one more day to make a difference, hopefully inspire someone, make them smile, and just another day to look around for at least one thing I can find beautiful.
Yeah. That is such a beautiful, simple way of looking at your day. And I
Yeah.
say your day because it's today that you're going to be thinking about, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that is such a beautiful lesson for each one of us that will be hearing your story, is that don't take life for granted. Make sure that you're living life every day, not
Yeah.
looking forward to something in the future, but be grateful.
Because it can change in a blink of an eye.
Amen. And then you'll be disappointed. And then your expectations or you're let down or,
Yes.
all of that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, that is so, so important. So we kind of quickly had a little bit back and forth previously about country songs. So what would the title of the country song be if one was written about your life? Have you thought about that? I know that we talked about you losing your boyfriend, losing your hair,
Oh
losing
yeah,
your
that I would
money.
make a joke that if you played my life backwards, my life is like a country song. If you played it backwards, I get everything back. But I wouldn't want everything back.
No. Let's
I
pick and choose.
adjusted. Oh my gosh, I don't know. That's a good question that I might have to do a poll on Facebook about, what country song do y'all think my life sounds like right now?
Right.
Jesus,
Right.
probably Jesus Take the Wheel. I don't know. But
Oh,
because every day Jesus does have to take the wheel. Some days more than others. I have hit my head on more things around here. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to have to work on that one. I'm not good at remembering songs or.
no, that's okay. Well, and I'm thinking come up with a new title. This needs to be the title,
Oh,
your song. If a song is to be written about your life. So yeah, I'll give you think about that and we'll come back to that another day. But Something to ponder on. And by the way, guys, if you're listening to this, I would love for you guys to all chime in, either reach out to myself or to Cindy, and we'll get you some ways that you can get in contact with her here in just a minute. But would love to hear your input on what you think the title to Cindy's song would be, right? For if it was a country music song. I think that would be so much fun to have people give us input back and forth. Don't you think? All right, guys, play along. What Now Tribe? We need to hear from you on that. So Cindy, what is one thing that if you could go back and share anything with yourself before your health started to decline, or maybe even before you got those implants, what is one thing that you would say to yourself if you could go back?
Probably I would go back to, the very first set after I'd had the kids. I would go back to then and see beauty different. I think society has deemed us what has to be beautiful or perfect about us. And that's what I would go back. And that's kind of my platform I'm wanting to go forward, is helping our younger girls, the teenagers. How do we redefine beauty? Redefine true beauty, which, like it says in the Bible, beauty is fleeting. It will fade. And I can literally say, trust me, I know it. Right. I mean, not that I'm ugly, but
no, you're gorgeous.
Attributes, they're going to change over time.
Yes.
But what really deems us beautiful? It's not what society says. It's not what the magazines, but that's all that's around us and around our youth is, airbrushed, everything looking perfect, who has more Instagram followers or whatever. If you look at them, most of them are not real.
All kinds of filters.
It's either filters or it's just, that's not their life. That's just their life on Instagram. Girl, people see my life. They see it.
Right. I love it.
It's the realness. I would go back and say I was beautiful. Those scars that I had, the fact that my breasts were, like they were. I'd had 4 kids. That's a beautiful thing. Those are beautiful scars.
Yeah, what your body carried you through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I would go back and say is that, girl, you are gorgeous and beautiful how you are, because it only matters how God sees you.
Amen. Amen. And I was actually going to ask you that specific thing was, what does beauty mean to you and how do you think beauty should be redefined? And I think you've just covered that absolutely perfect. And I find you to be very beautiful because, your outside appearance, by the way, your smile lights up. I mean, anything and everything around you. And it's actually bringing tears to my eyes right now. You are a beautiful woman, and your heart and your soul. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank you.
So Cindy, before we say goodbye to the What Now Tribe, how can they follow you? How can they connect with you? Because I know that they're going to want to see some of that realness and see what a real beautiful woman looks like, shows up like, and lives like.
So they can find me on Facebook. It's just Cindy Leach, Leach. And on like Instagram, TikTok, I don't make as many videos, but they can see some of it. But on those, it's at Beautiful Beyond Bald.
I love that. I love that. And I am sure that you would love to get some messages from people. And we definitely want to hear the title of your country music song. So
we're going to work on that. Definitely.
Yes. Well, and if we can get some input from the audience, that would be fun and give you some ideas to really roll with. And then maybe we can find somebody to write it and find somebody to sing it, right? It just won't be me. I'm not much of a singer.
You never know. Here, I'm gonna take a selfie of us.
Yes,
I love my Facebook and say, all right, we need a song title.
Yes, for sure. For sure. I absolutely love that you just did that. And guys, make sure that you connect with Cindy. Cindy, you are so beautiful. You are exactly what beauty needs to be depicted as, because it's your heart, it's your soul, it's your heart for people and for just people understanding who they truly are on the inside is what's important. And that's how you're living your life. And I appreciate you so very much. Thank you so much for being such a, I want to say, freaking fantastic guest today on this show. And it's like your episode is you're living one day at a time. What now? Thank you, Cindy, so much for being a beautiful guest.
Thank you very much, Marcy, for having me.
Welcome.